How to understand life and death and be reborn at ease, drawing on the real cases of great Buddhists. Life and death is the most difficult problem in life. Many people are confused and suffering, while others can be at ease in practice. Today, let's explore how to understand life and death and be at ease in being reborn through the real cases of great Buddhists. Master Huineng, the Sixth Patriarch, the legend of knowing life and death in advance, ranging affairs, and the body relic. Master Huineng, the Sixth Patriarch, is a highly influential figure in the history of Chinese Buddhism and Zen Buddhism. His way of life and death, as well as the preservation of his body relics, is a legend in the history of Buddhism. 1. Predicting life and death and arranging affairs. Master Huineng, dedicated to promoting Buddhism, advocated seeing one's nature and becoming a Buddha instantly. In his later years, he clearly knew the time of his nirvana and detailed the arrangements for his disciples. Nirvana farewell. A year before his nirvana, Master Huineng told his disciples, "My time to leave the world is approaching. You must take care of yourselves and protect the Buddha's teachings." He specially convened a gathering to explain the Platform Sutra to the public and urged his disciples not to cling to forms but to focus on the cultivation of mind. On the day before his departure, Master Huineng said to his disciples, "Tomorrow at noon, I will enter nirvana. Do not be sad, for I will be reborn in the Pure Land and be with all the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas." Arrangement of affairs. Master Huineng instructed his disciples to preserve his body in a sitting urn after his nirvana and not to hold extravagant ceremonies, but to follow the principle of simplicity and plainness. 2. The incorruptible body after nirvana. After Master Huineng's nirvana, his disciples followed his wishes and placed his body in a jar, using drugs and lime for anti-corrosion. After many years of preservation, Master Huineng's body not only did not decay but also showed a dignified appearance. Preservation of body relic. Master Huineng's body was placed in the Nanhua Temple in Shaoguan, Guangdong for later generations to worship. His demeanor is dignified, and his face is kind, just like when he was meditating in his lifetime. This miracle is considered a manifestation of his complete cultivation and profound merit. 3. Red Guard's destruction. The catastrophe during the Cultural Revolution. In the 1960s, during the Cultural Revolution, the Red Guards initiated the destruction of the Four Olds, and Buddhist relics and cultural relics were severely damaged. Master Huineng's body relics were also not immune. Details of destruction. 4. Looting and desecration. The Red Guards entered the Nanhua Temple, forcibly opened the place where Master Huineng's body was placed, and desecrated it. They beat the body with sticks and even pushed it off the offering table. To verify the so-called incorruptible body, some Red Guards cut Master Huineng's arm and chest with a knife. It is said that they found the body still soft, and fresh red blood flowed from the cuts. 5. This phenomenon frightened and shocked the people present. Even in the craze of the time, some Red Guards were awed and stopped further destruction. 6. Protection by believers. Monks and believers of the Nanhua Temple risked their lives to rescue Master Huineng's incomplete body and repaired it with simple methods. Although it could not be fully restored, the body was eventually preserved. Later repair and placement. After the end of the Cultural Revolution, Master Huineng's body relics were repaired and placed again in a special hall in the Nanhua Temple. Today, believers can still worship Master Huineng's remains and feel the great power of his cultivation. 7. Spiritual legacy of the Sixth Patriarch. Master Huineng not only benefited all beings through the propagation of the Dharma during his lifetime, but his body relics and legendary stories after nirvana have also become an important symbol of Buddhist culture. His deeds of knowing life and death in advance and his incorruptible body show the world the power of cultivation and the wisdom of fearlessness in life and death. The sudden enlightenment thought he conveyed in the Platform Sutra has benefited countless later generations and led them on the path to enlightenment. Through the legend of the Sixth Patriarch's life and death, we can deeply appreciate the importance of cultivation. He used his life, and even his existence after nirvana, to show the world the greatness and power of the Buddha's teachings, inspiring countless people to pursue inner peace and enlightenment. The story of the cultivation and rebirth of Haixian old monk and his family. Haixian Old Monk is a famous practitioner of the Pure Land school in modern times, known for his simple life and unwavering cultivation. His cultivation experience, rebirth process, and the cultivation deeds of his family show the power and wisdom of the Buddha's teachings, leaving valuable spiritual wealth for future generations. 1. Haixian Old Monk's cultivation and rebirth. A model of cultivation and a simple life. Haixian Old Monk, with the lay surname Wen, was born in the 26th year of the Guangxu period of the late Qing dynasty, living in Shoubeitbal Town, Tang County, southern Huineng. His parents and grandfather were devout Buddhists, passing down a family tradition of farming and reading, and being kind and charitable. At the age of 18, Haixian Old Monk suffered from a severe abscess on his leg, which he gave up on medical treatment and wholeheartedly recited the name of Guanyin Bodhisattva. After more than a month, the stubborn disease was cured without medicine, which made him deeply realize the sincerity of the Buddha's words, the certainty that the Bodhisattva's words saving all sufferings are not deceptive, and thus he was determined to leave the secular world. In the 9th year of the Republic of China, at the age of 20, Haixian Old Monk decided to become a monk and worship under the old monk Chuanji at Yuntai Temple on Taibai top of Tongbai Mountain, where he was given the Dharma name Haixian. At the age of 23, he went to Rongbao Temple in Hubei to receive the full precepts. Haixian Old Monk has been indifferent to fame and fortune throughout his life and has never been contaminated by vanity titles. He follows the customs and gets along with all beings, like a bowl of clear water, reflecting people and things, and moistening people's hearts. He has lived in a small temple in Lifo Temple, Sheki, Nanyang, for decades, focusing on both agriculture and Zen, spreading Bodhi. He has been working in the fields, weeding, and in the temple, lighting lamps, burning incense, chopping wood, and cooking rice, never resting for a day. Haixian Old Monk is known for his simple lifestyle and generous donations. 2. Donating food. During the flood disaster in 1989, Haixian Old Monk voluntarily donated all the food 1,200 jin he had, which was grown by the temple, to the state granary, without asking for any food money. This act reflects his spirit of patriotism and Buddhism, as well as his noble quality of sharing the nation's worries and transforming sentient beings. 3. Printing scriptures and releasing life. Haixian Old Monk always used the offerings from the lay people to print scriptures and release life, both of which are manifestations of ending evil and doing good. He has been a vegetarian and releasing life all his life, showing his respect for life and his devotion to the Buddha's teachings. 4. Reclaiming wasteland and helping the poor. Haixian Old Monk reclaimed more than a dozen wastelands, totaling more than 100 acres, and the amount of food, vegetables, and fruits he grew was very considerable. In addition to the needs of the temple, he gave all the output to help the poor, practicing the giving of wealth, dharma, and fearlessness. 5. Compassionate love for all beings. Haixian Old Monk is full of compassion for all beings, and he always shares the offerings with the small animals around the temple, urging everyone not to hurt them. His behavior reflects his equal respect and love for all lives. 6. Not accepting donated property. Once, a lay follower named Zhongjun offered a ring to Haixian Old Monk, who put it on in front of Zhongjun but gave it to someone else when he left the Buddhist hall, indicating that as a monk, he does not covet these items, showing his selfless spirit and detachment from material things. 7. Self-sufficiency and not troubling others. Even in his later years, Haixian Old Monk still washes and mends by himself and does not trouble others. His self-sufficient lifestyle reflects his adherence to a simple life and consideration for others. Through these examples, we can see that Haixian Old Monk is not only generous in material donations but also extremely generous in spirit. His life is a perfect interpretation and practice of the Buddha's teachings. Knowing the time in advance and being reborn at ease, Haixian Old Monk, at the age of 108, knew his time in advance. A few days before his rebirth, he said to his disciples, "I will leave soon, and you must continue to recite the Buddha and practice without slacking." On the day of his rebirth, he bathed, changed his clothes, sat in the Buddhist hall, and faced the Buddha statue, clapping his hands and reciting the Buddha's name. His recitation was clear and melodious, and then he stopped breathing peacefully with a kind smile on his face. His disciples found that Haixian old monk's body was still soft and warm, and his face was ready several hours after his rebirth. His relics appeared in various colors after cremation, which were considered auspicious signs of complete cultivation. His mother's cultivation and peaceful rebirth. Haixian old monk's mother, as a lay Buddhist, was also a devout Buddhist. She knew the time of her rebirth in advance and made preparations for it. 1. Knowing the time in advance and being free from illness and suffering. Haixian old monk's mother passed away at the age of 87, knowing her time of rebirth in advance, without experiencing illness and suffering. 2. Asking to go back to her hometown to live. In 1956, when Haixian old monk's mother was 86 years old, she suddenly asked to go back to her hometown to live. She said to Haixian, "Can you let me die on this mountain top?" This shows that she had already known that she was about to be reborn and hoped to be reborn in her hometown. 3. Arranging affairs. The day before her rebirth, Haixian old monk's mother made dumplings by herself and asked Haixian to send a message to her sister and a cousin, asking them to come back the next day. She also asked Haixian to help move her bed outside, and she wanted to sleep outside. She said to Haixian, "My child, I want to sleep outside." When Haixian asked her why she wanted to sleep outside, she replied, "Can you let me die in this room tomorrow?" This shows that she had a clear prediction of the specific time and way of her rebirth. 4. Peaceful rebirth. On the day of her rebirth, Haixian old monk's mother still had lunch with her family and went to the toilet to relieve herself after lunch. After coming back, she lay down for a while, then said to Haixian, "My child, I want to sit up for a while, okay?" Then she lay on her side, took a long breath peacefully, and passed away. 5. Influence on family. After the rebirth of Haixian old monk's mother, her daughter, who is also Haixian old monk's sister, witnessed the incredible rebirth of her mother. So she took her son to become a monk on Tongbai Mountain shortly after her mother's rebirth. These details show that Haixian old monk's mother has a profound understanding of life and death and extraordinary cultivation achievements. Her rebirth process is calm and dignified, leaving a deep impression on her family and believers. The transformation from laziness to diligence of his brother. Haixian old monk's brother was not pious in Buddhism at first, thinking that cultivation was a matter for the elderly. However, after witnessing his mother's peaceful rebirth, he was deeply touched and began to practice seriously, gradually realizing the subtlety of reciting the Buddha's name. Omen before rebirth. In his later years, his brother practiced with his brother, reciting the Buddha's name diligently, and living a simple life. A few days before his rebirth, he bid farewell to his family, saying that he had a dream that Amitabha Buddha welcomed him to the Pure Land. At the time of rebirth, he, like his mother, passed away peacefully and painlessly with a natural demeanor, which his family believed was the result of the Buddha's blessing. The influence of cultivation. The awakening of the family and neighbors. The process of cultivation and rebirth of the three people in Haixian old monk's family not only left a profound spiritual wealth for the family but also had a far-reaching impact on the neighbors. Many people started to recite the Buddha and practice because of their deeds. An old farmer among the neighbors once said, "What we learn from Master Haixian is not something else, but how to live an ordinary and comfortable life." Reciting the Buddha's name can calm the mind, and one can pass away peacefully in old age. Summary. Haixian old monk and his family have interpreted the simplicity and greatness of the Pure Land method with practical actions. Although their lives have no earth-shattering deeds, they have set an example for cultivation with persistence in the ordinary. Through these touching deeds, we see that the Buddha's teachings can not only bring peace in life but also provide a satisfactory answer to the problem of life and death. May more people embark on the path of cultivation and find their spiritual home.